And hey, it's Evan Kirstel with another live discussion. Today I have quite an amazing guest, Dan Schawbel. Uh, Dan, you are an author, a founder, a speaker, content creator. Is there anything you don't do exactly?
Well, thanks for having me on, Evan. Yeah, I do a lot of different things, but I'm just a curious person. I've been always been driven by curiosity. When I was younger, you heard all these commencement speeches and quotes online saying follow your passion. So I was always curious to see if that was possible. And so I kind of set out on a journey early in my career to figure that out. And it turns out it is possible. It just takes over 100 hours a week of work, some luck, some good networking connections and creativity, but it is possible. And I think the harder thing is to stay relevant for a long period of time. And I know you've been, doing what you've done for a while. And I was in social media starting in 2006. Our mutual friend Jeremiah, I was networking with him back then when I created the first social media position at a company called EMC. And I know you're big into B2B tech, so you're aware of them. And they were acquired
Sure.
by Dell some years ago. And yeah, it's been a long voyage. And I think what's very interesting is if you're consistent, if you really work hard to, stay on top of the various trends, some of which we'll probably talk about today. To me, this is 7 days a week. This is over 10 years now. I just turned 38. So, it definitely feels like I'm becoming the elder, although I only have probably a dozen gray hairs. I think they're going to start to come in by the numbers soon.
You're a youngster. You're a youngster. So, but do tell us, speaking of age, where did your obsession or passion, let's call it, for the workplace, like where did that and when did that begin?
Yeah, so I mean, you could say a very, very long time ago in a faraway land. I mean, really, I was very early into personal branding. So between high school and college, I kind of realized that we need to market ourselves. And especially with the advent of all these new social tools back then, it was mainly Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. It was, hey, we could use these tools to brand ourselves and position ourselves for the jobs that we want. Maybe not even the jobs that we have or the internships that we have, but things that we really want and position ourselves online in accordance to that. And so like I was this person in college that it would have a CD portfolio of work, and that obviously ages me because who even knows it? If you're born today, you don't know what a CD is. You'll never know what a CD is. You don't know what a cassette is. And I also had a website. I had a business card with my picture on it. So like I had the mentality and the creativity back then. But it really wasn't until I was looking for my first job out of school where things really started to come to fruition for me. So I had internships at Reebok and LoJack and Tech Target, and then also at, companies you've never heard of before, like small ones that were in the Boston area, some of whom are out of business. So I always remember it was 15 interviews for 3 jobs. I got rejected for the first 2 jobs. And my last set of interviews for EMC, a man by the name of David was looking at my resume. I looked at his eyes, and his eyes went down the resume, and they stopped at Reebok. And he said, "Oh, that's cool. What'd you do at Reebok?" And that literally transformed everything for me, because it's like, oh, brands are important. I need to surround myself and attach myself with brands. So then that kind of grew into this whole philosophy of, if people haven't heard of you before, align yourself with a brand that people have heard of before, so you can build your brand by association. And then that is the reason why if you see anything that I do, it's obsessive with all sorts of brands. So like, we work with Oracle and WeWork. If you look at all my partners over the years, and, you've worked with many, many big companies too, it's how do I align myself with brands? Because through that, I can build my own brand. And then, from there, I got really even more into personal branding, starting, had the personal branding blog, personal branding magazine, personal branding. I wanted to create a whole world around personal branding. And then
Right.
after Fast Company, recruited me, or Fast Company profiled me 10 years to the day that Tom Peters' original Brand Called You article came out in Fast Company that launched that magazine. It was about the brand called You, and you got to be the chief marketing officer for the brand of You. And one of the things that is in the article that a lot of people pass over is it said something like the most unique and smartest people are the ones that craft their own unique position within their company. And so because of that article, PR at EMC got wind of it. And I got hired to be the first social media person in the company's history. So I created my own job description and almost like fulfilled part of that article that Tom wrote. And eventually I had ended up interviewing and everything. But then I had a choice as I was going along with this. Do I want to be more into marketing, or do I want to be more into using marketing in HR? And it turns out I did that. And what this is the real secret. The real secret sauce is I took a skill set that was becoming more valuable, but also more saturated in the marketing, social media type world. And I brought it to HR where it was more, that skill set was more scarce. And that's how I launched my career catering to the HR world. So I'm a marketer in HR, and that's what makes me unique. And I love the workplace and study the workplace because our work has such an impact on our overall lives. Like, think about right now, especially, if you're having a bad work day, you could have a bad work day, in your kitchen on a Zoom call. That's going to have a big impact on your personal life, because 2 feet away from you could be your wife per se, or you might be in a bad mood because after a meeting or confrontation with a coworker that affects, your relationship with your children. Like, it's work and life are so intertwined now. But back in the day, I was like, if I can do the right things, advise companies with, research and ideas to influence them to create healthier, more human-centric workplaces, they'll benefit because they'll be able to recruit and retain top talent, but then individuals are more likely to succeed. So I've always played like the champion of the worker, but also the advisor of the organization.
Wow, that's a fascinating perspective. And you have such connection, empathy with the role of HR in a company. I personally, as an employee of 25 years, I really did not like HR. I didn't like the people at HR. Why does HR get such a bad rap? Is it people like me, curmudgeons, who just don't particularly like dealing with HR issues? Or is there something bigger at work?
There's something bigger at work.
Okay.
Yeah, the bigger thing at work is that HR's job is to serve the company, not the individual, because they're getting paid by the company. Therefore, regardless of what you tell HR, that could be used against you to, you could potentially get laid off because they're going to report back to the company. And there's going to be a business decision whether to keep you or not. It's a little bit less of a human decision. But I think what's happening right now is HR divided into 2 camps. At least I do this. It's administrative, which will be automated eventually. Year over year, there'll be fewer of those jobs. And then strategic, right? And if you want to be strategic in HR, it is thinking about talent as not just being your best asset, but being humans just like you. And the more you humanize your workforce and promote a corporate culture that embraces, employee health and well-being, especially now, and hopefully eventually coming out of a pandemic, that's really what's going to be important. I mean, look at what's happened over the past year. You've seen these headlines: 15 million people, quit their jobs this year. There's upwards of 11 million unfilled jobs, right? So, a lot of people say that this is the great resignation, and there is a lot of truth to that because we're in a good economy where people have the ability to do that. And it puts more pressure on companies to step up their game. And I always look, and I'm sure you do too, I'm looking at, how are companies reacting to what's going on in the economy? And I look at, for example, Walmart. 2/3 of their hourly workers are going to become full-time workers with benefits. They're not doing that for fun, right? They're not like, hey, this would be great, let's help workers out. No, they're doing it because that's part of their retention strategy and recruiting strategy, right? So every move a company makes, if they do something positive for the environment, if they, promote Black Lives Matter, whatever they do, it's a business strategy. So I guess by working with companies, and you have too, over so many years, and really knowing the intricacies, every decision is a business decision.
That's fascinating. So I'm just looking through your prolific Twitter feed at Dan Schawbel.
I mean, you tweet more than I do. So
I
you're
do,
the
and it's very
prolific one.
unhealthy. I wouldn't advise that for anyone. But you have a lot going on. You have a new course called Managing Your Well-Being as a Leader. We're in the midst of this mental health care crisis within a pandemic. So give us a preview of that course. What's involved in taking care of yourself so you can take care of others as a leader?
Yeah. So the way I frame this is my first course, which was Emerging Leader Foundations, came out in 2018. And that is really the core to the leadership philosophy that I have about, people-centric leadership. And now coming, in COVID and with so many people struggling, there are overarching courses and articles that focus on individuals and how to take care of yourself. and improve your mental health and prevent burnout. But there really wasn't a course on and for a leader who is managing people, because it's hard to be an effective manager if you yourself are struggling. You can more likely be a role model and support others if you yourself are okay and are mentally and physically healthy. And so that's something I've seen during the pandemic. We did a massive study with Oracle last year of over 12,000 C-suite HR leaders, managers, employees in 11 countries. And one of the things we found was that, of course, we have this major mental health crisis globally, but the ones who are suffering the most are not workers who are getting paid much less than, the C-suite. The C-suite is, CEOs on average in America get like 300 times the average worker. So it's not about money, because money, of course, you can pay medical bills and whatnot. So that's great. But if you're someone at the top, or you're managing people, there's even more stress, because you don't have to you're not just focusing on yourself and getting your job done. You have to care about and work with other people on your team to get jobs done and projects accomplished. So in the course, I'm really helping leaders figure out how to take care of themselves first, so that they can be a role model for the people that they serve.
That's fantastic. And what a better platform than LinkedIn to do that on. You also referenced a few of your recent episodes on 5 Questions podcast, which just a fantastic idea, short form, 5 questions. It doesn't take 90 minutes to listen to, which is great for busy professionals. And you've really had a who's who of guests on the show. I mean, just recently, Melissa Etheridge. I mean, you've had Kevin O'Leary. I mean, just a who's who of our culture and business world. What are some of your favorite guests that you've interviewed? Have you learned something really eye-opening from them on the podcast?
Yeah, so great question. And, I think that my life is questions. Like, I have a research company where we ask survey questions. I have a podcast where I'm asking questions. So it's really, again, like I was saying early on, and everything's driven by curiosity. The 5-question format came from, I used to have a Forbes column, before that a Bloomberg/Business Week column. So I've been interviewing people for a while, and I looked at the interviews. I'm like, oh, all of my interviews are 5 questions. And they all end with, what's your best piece of career advice? So then when I went to start a podcast, I'm like, oh, I should just use the format as the podcast name. And that's how I came up with that. And over the years, I would say the people who I interviewed before the podcast were really good, like Hulk Hogan. That to me is one of the most memorable ones.
Epic.
It was really remarkable. And then I would say more recent, the ones you probably listen to. I mean, Matthew McConaughey is one of the best guests.
Oh, he's amazing.
Ever. I mean, it was just incredible. Natalie Portman was great as well. What I like to do with the Hollywood types is, I always say, for your best piece of career advice, do not say follow your passion. So I put a lot more pressure, because think about how many times I've heard follow your passion, and I'm just like, so I'm over it. And I want to make them more unique. So putting that pressure has actually led to better, more unique advice from them. But Michael Dell I have coming up too. I had interviewed him a week ago.
What a individual. Yeah.
So me, it's about diversity. It's about who am I genuinely interested in. And there's just been so many good ones. Like Logic, he's like a rapper. I just had him on this week, and I wasn't even that familiar with him before. I'd heard his name, but he was such a good guest.
They don't always take that well when you say, "Who are you?"
Yeah, no, I didn't say that to him. But it's even guests who they can surprise you too.
I bet.
Most people are nice, and that's my overall conclusion. Most people are nice and willing to help, and are curious enough to have an interesting conversation,
including you. So thanks for chatting. I also see in your timeline here, you have a Future of Work Summit. Actually, is it tomorrow, this week?
Future Work. I have so much going on. No, I've been doing a lot of presentations. I don't know if you've done this too, where you have to record yourself and then you submit it, then it's played.
I see. So the pre-recorded.
I know. And then I have to do that. I'm doing that now for like Q&As too. So the speaking world is unbelievably changed. I mean, you probably remember, right? Like you're going to be flying here to speak, and then you fly there, you have dinner with a bunch of random people, you speak the next morning, and then you leave. Like, I do miss that a lot.
it seems like ancient history. You also have a very popular newsletter. I'm checking this out, called Workplace Intelligence Weekly. How do you decide what goes into the newsletter, and what can folks expect when they subscribe?
Great question. So I started this November 2019, and now we're at 176,000 subscribers, and it was one article every Monday morning.
176,000 subscribers. That is a marketing coup d'etat. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it started it, early on, and I was like, this is a great opportunity to get some of my ideas out there, but it's also like, there's so much content out there. So can I take the best and most important trend that's happening that week, or something that people need to pay attention to, and kind of blow that up with interviews, with research. And since we publish 6 studies a year, that kind of helps us know what to focus on. And so for me, it's keeping people informed, giving them advice, and making things, thought provoking. Like I'll do something that's like, back to school, so a lot of the stuff is timely, and I try not to cover the same thing twice per se, or at least take a different angle of it that people might not be thinking of. So it is getting harder because, it does sometimes feel like there's only so many topics, but I think that you can always create something new. There's always an opportunity to grow and to create a new piece of content.
Fantastic. And speaking of content and content creators, I learned about your work through the Rally ecosystem, RALLYIO, and they have what's called a creator coin. So we both have creator coins. Mine's a little focused on the marketing side. Your coin is called
Work.
Work.
Surprise,
So
surprise.
it's all work, no play.
I didn't come up with it. Oh my God. Jeremiah Oyang came up with it. He's the mastermind behind my,
I love it. I love it.
getting
And how
into
have
crypto.
you used your coin to sort of engage and energize your audience, your fans, of which you have many, and your content consumers? What have you seen with your personal crypto coin so far?
Yeah, I think people are enjoying the be able to use it and to, work with some of our experts who can provide advice ranging from, HR strategy to hybrid, because I think right now people are curious about crypto overall and are in this interesting phase where they're willing to, for me at least, getting into Rally and with Workcoin. If I didn't, I would have been really behind on crypto overall. So it was kind of like this nice stepping stone. It created the right incentive for me to get involved and to, test things out to see what's working, what's not working. And so I think it's, a work in progress like anything else. Do you feel the same?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. It's entertainment. For me, it's kind of gamification to, even though I'm not a gamer, of which there are many with Rally coins, I enjoy giving them out to followers and kind of giving special access and perks and benefits to folks who purchase the coin and hold on to it. So, it's fun and experiment, and it doesn't cost much money at all to participate in the ecosystem. So that's been entertaining. So last question, how are you doing personally? What are you up to? Are you emerging from the pandemic in the New York area?
Yeah, no, I've worked from home for over 10 years now, so that really didn't change. The biggest life change is I relocated from New York City to Boston. So that's been a little bit of an adjustment, but I'm from here, so it's also like very manageable and whatnot. It's, I've spent more
Great.
time
Well, as
with
soon as
family
I
and
emerge
friends.
from the bunker, we'll have to grab a cappuccino in town. So
You got
look
it.
forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully, we just got to get past hopefully this last winter of being in COVID, and then potentially things will get better.
That's what
My
I
whole,
said 2 winters ago, but okay, I'll take you at your word.
yeah, I think it comes down to this is, every day you got to just play your hand and do the best you can within, the constraints you set for yourself, the constraints that society sets for everyone. And just, every day try to adjust and at least take the time to learn something.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for your time, and as always, your insights, and look forward to checking out, the next podcast. So take care, Dan. Great to see
Awesome.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.